Hi, I'm Bob Vila. Welcome home again. We're starting a brand new project today. We've come to a little town called New Marlborough, Massachusetts in the Berkshire Hills. So today we're going to be showing you a little bit of the countryside here, but we're also learning about modular housing. We'll take you to the factory where our modular house is being manufactured. Plus, we'll be touring our building site and meeting our general contractor. Stick around, it's good to have you home again. We're in Scranton, Pennsylvania, visiting Simplex Industries, where we're going to learn all about modular home construction. The fact is that our house is being built in here, and we're going to see how all the pieces come together. Let's meet Pat Frascione, one of the owners of the company. Hey, Pat, how are you?
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
I'm great. Now, it's hard to believe that this is a modular house.
Yes,
I mean,
it is.
It looks like a suburban colonial.
Sure it does. This is our Alexandra model home.
How big a house is it?
It's about 3,000.
3,000 square feet?
Yes.
And how many modules make up a house like this?
4 boxes.
Four boxes like you see coming down the highway. They get bolted together. Excellent. Now, tell us a little bit about Simplex Industries. How old a company is it?
Well, we started in 1971. Originally, how we originally started was the fact that my grandfather immigrated here from Italy in the 20s.
Yeah.
And he was in the plumbing and heating business, and one of the first things he patented was a coal stoker called a Simplex coal stoker, and this was an automatic.
What's a coal stoker?
Well, it's a coal stoker. This area was rich in anthracite coal.
Yeah, we've even got a town called Anthracite.
That's right.
Right.
And what it was an automatic worm feed, meaning that you used to have the coal bin, and you used to automatic feed the coal into the fire pot.
Okay.
And I used to heat up the houses and what have you.
And so that company evolved into a modular home building company?
What happened was, you know, with the coal industry going down, they needed to do something else, and they were always interested in construction.
Mm-hmm.
So one day they were just sitting around the kitchen table, and they talked about, hey, let's get into this modular home industry, and that's how it all started.
So here it is 30 years later. How many houses do you build a year?
Oh, we do about 400 houses. It's not only houses we do, we also do, you know, commercial buildings, hotels, townhouses, things of that nature.
Really? Now, Pat, what is the basic difference between a stick-built house and a modular house?
Well, there really isn't any difference in the fact that you know, we're still using the same materials as a stick-built or site-built home. The only thing that we're doing is we're building here in our factory in a controlled environment.
So you're still receiving flatbed trucks with 2x4s and 2x12s?
Absolutely. Probably the only difference is when you build an on-site, you're just getting a small truckload of lumber. Here we're buying in bulk. We're buying carloads, truckloads, and that's how the material comes in. And obviously we have more men here. We're, you know, building in a controlled environment. We have different stations, different departments, and what they do is they work as teams, and they build a house basically in an assembly line. Yeah. And as the house comes further down the assembly line, more and more gets put into it.
And of course the big advantage is that you don't have to deal with the weather. You've got controlled circumstances.
That's right. We could build 12 months, you know, out of the year. Whether it's snow, sleet, rain, it doesn't, it does. The only thing that would hinder it is the fact that if our guys couldn't get here to the job site.
Right. So a house like this one, the Westport model, could theoretically be built in a week inside the plant here.
That's correct, Bob.
And it's a lovely house. How big is this one?
Thank you. This is approximately 2,500 square feet. It's a 4-box Cape Cod style home.
So there are 4 modules that get put together.
Correct. And as you see, we have the porch on it, which gives it a lot of curb appeal.
Yeah, a little farmer's porch. Well, let's go inside and meet Michael Buchanan, who has designed the house we're going to build, and he's going to own it. Like the door knocking.
Oh, thanks, Bob.
Oh, this is great. It's basically the social kitchen with the family room, the eating area, and the kitchen all in one.
Yes.
Mike, how are you?
Hi, Bob. How are you doing?
Great, thanks.
Hi, Mike. Good seeing you.
So how did you decide that you wanted a modular house as opposed to a stick-built house out in your site?
Well, I wanted it for a couple of reasons. I wanted it to be time-wise, it's much more effective and cost efficiency, and plus it's very environmentally sound. So that was some of the reasons why I chose to do that up in the Berkshires.
You're building in a rural location in the Berkshire Hills, and also in an area where it's kind of a resort area, so that there's a lot of boom, and it's tough to get a contractor to come and build a house for you.
It is difficult, and that was the other concern that I was thinking about. And then I decided, why not build a prefabulous house? And so that's why I came to Simplex, to have them build this.
A stick-built would have probably taken, what, maybe 6 or 8 months?
At least. I actually think with the amount of detail that's here, it probably would have taken more like a year.
Okay, well, let's talk about the house. What's your inspiration?
Well, my Bible is this recreation of bungalow-style houses. And so I decided to go through this and pick out various elements to be able to apply to a prefabricated house.
Well, wait, let's look inside there, because, I mean, these are basically your Sears catalog houses from the teens and the 20s, and I'm fascinated by the fact that there's so many thousands of them still out there. Which specific houses in there did you...
I have them marked here, and what's great about this is that you'll be able to see the contrast between the two different styles and some of the details that we're going to create with using the bracketed details, the tapered columns, the piers that the columns are going to be set on.
Yeah, these are craftsman-style bungalows.
Yes, and the great details with the exposed rafters, all those types of details I wanted to incorporate in this particular house.
And you're able to do that, Pat?
Yes, we are, Bob.
Yeah. All right, well, show us. You've got, obviously, the elevation drawing here for the house that's being built for you. Take us through it. What are we looking at?
Well, a typical detail on an arts and crafts house would start with the front porch. And so we weren't able to do an exaggerated overhang that you would see on a bungalow, but what we were able to do is create this colonnade effect here with a pergola with the arts and crafts bungalow columns.
So the
stone
pergola
piers.
will be independent of the house itself?
It will be. It will be built on site. So this is a combination of stick-built mixed with modular construction.
Yeah, little details like that, but all of this is built here at the factory, right?
Absolutely, and
So
that's the beauty of it.
What kind of a roof is it?
It ends up being a steel roof with a shed dormer detail here that steps out, and it steps right here, and we have these 3 great windows with the charming window boxes underneath. And then off of here, we have a sunroom, which will have a vaulted ceiling in this area. And then to the side, we're going to have the master bedroom wing.
Yeah, have you got a set of floor plans?
Yes, right here.
All right, so this is all the living room.
Yes, a large living room. I decided to break away from the cluster of the small rooms that the bungalow houses started to have in the early 20th century, and I wanted to make it a bigger and brighter interior and more updated for the 21st century. So that was one reason, is instead of making 2 small rooms, is to create one large great room.
Okay, and then this is the front hall and stair hall, and what's all this?
This ends up being a kind of a casual dining room area with a sitting room here, a large style kitchen that just opens onto the dining room with a kind of an arts and crafts archway open here.
And then over here?
This ends up being the master bedroom wing here. So the master bedroom here with a large master bath with an exterior patio off of it.
So Pat, tell us about the modular part of this.
Well, Bob, this particular house, we're building it in 5 different modular sections.
So 5 boxes will be coming down the road?
That is correct. And then on this first floor, as you can see, we built it in 5 different sections. As you can see, we have the first box right here, which
The
encompasses...
dark outline is 1 box?
Correct. And then the back of the box is the living room, kitchen, and part of the living room, along with the sunroom. And then over here, we have the master bedroom with the master bath. We're also going to panelize this walk-in closet here in our factory, and we'll set it on site.
And then 2 more boxes make up the 2nd floor?
Correct.
All right. Now, Michael, you're a designer. Are you going to be satisfied with a factory-built house?
Well, you know, what I decided to do was embellish it a little differently than what you may typically think of a prefabricated house. So for instance, we took Merillet cabinetry, which is off-the-rack kind of cabinetry, and we decided to add like arts and crafts brackets to it. What will also convey the arts and crafts bungalow theme will be the hardware that we choose, which is hand-hammered nickel hardware.
Nice.
So these kind of details will give that kind of old world charm that we all aspire to have.
And
then in the
here?
master bath, we decided to tent the ceiling. We did a wainscoting detail, which is typical of the arts and crafts bungalow, with these 3 bay windows in front here.
What's the square footage of the house?
It's approximately 3,200 square feet.
You're going to build 3,200 square feet in how many days? How long will it take?
In 5 days, Bob.
So it'll take 5 days. That's pretty impressive.
It is amazing.
Well, you're going to take 5 days. We're going to take longer than that in showtime so that we can stay here at the factory and see all the different steps. When we come back, we'll be in the Berkshire Hills to find out more about the unique attractions of this area. This is the meeting house here in New Marlborough, Mass. And Bill Wilson, who's the president of the Berkshires Visitors Bureau, is joining us now so that we can talk a little bit about all these wonderful places here. I guess the first time I heard of the Berkshires as a Florida boy was when James Taylor sang that song about the turnpike from Boston to Stockbridge or the other way around. And I've come here over the years many times. I know there's wonderful attractions. But what's the history of this area as a resort?
Well, a little over 100 years ago, many of the very prominent, wealthy families in New York were looking for a place to escape in the summer. And so they came up to the beautiful, glorious Berkshire Hills, and they started building what we now call the Berkshire cottages.
Yeah.
Now, these cottages were now huge palatial mansions, but in those days, with no progressive income tax, people just started building bigger and bigger homes, and there was almost a competition. And some of these glorious homes are now resorts, and many of the other large mansions have become great attractions.
I'm familiar with one which was recently restored, which is called The Mount, and that belonged to the writer Edith Wharton. I think it was built around 1900. And then I also know that the great American sculptor Daniel Chester French spent the summers here and had a magnificent studio. He's, of course, the sculptor of the Lincoln Memorial and the Minuteman statue in Massachusetts. Who were some of the other luminaries?
Well, one thing I should mention about the Mount and Edith Wharton is the Berkshires have always been sort of a magnet for creative minds. So there are a lot of authors like Hawthorne and Melville, and as you mentioned, Edith Wharton.
Now tell us about Norman Rockwell's presence here in Stockbridge, right?
Yes, in Stockbridge, and again, his creativity was inspired by the area, and he actually lived in Stockbridge, had his studio in Stockbridge, and did a lot of his work in Stockbridge. And today, the Norman Rockwell Museum stands in Stockbridge, and what they've done is take his original studio and moved it onto the premises with the same orientation to the sun.
Now, many people know about Norman Rockwell from his Saturday Evening Post magazine covers, some of these famous paintings that he made. That famous one where the little boy is having a shot, and the other one where the artist is kind of looking around the corner of his painting and he's painting himself.
Yeah, the triple self-portrait. Yeah.
But the big one that we all love is the Christmas scene, because this is a very popular Christmas time destination.
Yes, on the main street of Stockbridge, Norman Rockwell painted a painting of Christmas time at the main street, and this is reenacted every year here in the Berkshires, where people gather, they bring their vintage cars, they set it up just as in the painting, and that is one of his most famous paintings.
And it's as a year-round destination, there's also a lot of recreational possibilities in the Berkshires.
We have great skiing, downhill skiing, as well as cross-country skiing. We have snowshoeing, we have hiking. Then in the fairer months, we have golfing and biking, whitewater rafting, boating, and a variety of other things.
The Boston Symphony Orchestra has made its summer home at the Shed here in Tanglewood for many, many years. So this is also a big music scene in the summertime, isn't it?
Yes, in addition to the theater and dance, the music is just phenomenal. The Boston Symphony brings people here from New York and from really all over the world all summer long. It's our single biggest attraction, draws almost 400,000 people a year.
And the 19th century religious sect that we call the Shakers, they also had a presence around here.
Right, and Hancock Shaker Village is an elegant restoration of life as it was during the Shaker time. Everything is done the same way with interpreters, and it's scenic and a very good historic experience.
Now, Bill, the Berkshires are also home to some of the finest colleges and prep schools in America, right?
Right, and probably the most well-known is Williams College up in Williamstown, which has just been named the #1 liberal arts school in the country by U.S. News and World Report.
What do you know?
And I'm glad and proud to be an alumnus.
And the art scene around here is very impressive.
Well, there's a great connection between Williams College and the Sterling and Francine Clark Art Institute. And the Clark Art, as we call it, has the largest, it has over 34 original Renoirs on the premises. It's a great collection of Impressionist art. It's one of the best in the country.
You're doing a great job of boosting it, Bill. Thanks.
Thank you, Bob.
Next, we'll be at the building site for our modular home, and we'll get started on the foundation. Okay, so here we are at our beautiful 9-acre wooded hillside building site. I love the ferns and the deep woods in there. We're going to meet with Michael Shields, who's our general contractor, and take a look at what the conditions are like. Our general contractor, Michael Shields, is from this area, And this is an unusual project for you, but let's talk first about the conditions here, because we're in virgin raw land, beautiful deciduous forest.
Yes.
What have you found?
Well, we did find a fair amount of water in the site when we started digging. We had to do some extra prep work for the foundation system we're using here.
Now, when you say a fair amount of water, do you mean there was like groundwater that was real close to the surface, or was it?
Well, we've had so much rain here because of the clay of the soil. It was holding all the water, so there was a lot of on-site water. It wasn't so much groundwater as this soil tends to hold the water.
It tends to hold the water.
Yes.
Okay. So you've already basically sliced out a shelf here for the project.
Yes.
And I don't see where all the spoils went. Did you truck it off the site?
Most of them, yes.
Yeah, okay. And then what are we standing on?
This is 3H crushed stone that we trucked in, and given a good flat level surface, we can compact it really well.
So this is just from a native quarry in this part of
This is
Western
crushed
Mass.
stone, yes.
Yeah, good. Inexpensive. What's that for?
That's a road fabric we used underneath the crushed stone because we had so much water when we were preparing the site. We wanted to get a good base before we put the stone down. So when we compact it, doesn't vibrate the water through.
And that won't allow the clay or the moist clay to kind of infiltrate into the crushed stone.
That's correct.
That's a nice precaution to take, I guess. And then what's happened back here? I mean, we are putting in a full foundation system that is a prefabricated foundation system, but what do we have already in place?
Well, because of local codes in the region we're in, this is a walkout basement. It's required that we go 4 foot below the frost line, and this is what's called a frost wall.
Okay, it's a frost wall just on the back side of the house. We're on a slope, and on the back side of the house, you walk out to grade.
Yes.
So you got to dig an extra 4 feet deeper to make sure that a frost won't make it heave.
Exactly.
You got it, yeah. And you can see from the back side of these panels that they are made in a factory. They're
Yes.
not poured in place. I guess there's a great deal of advantage to not having to bring concrete trucks out here into the remote countryside.
Yes. Both timing and for cost, it's very efficient to do it this way. It's all pre-engineered and assembly goes very quickly.
Okay. And what the crew that is working behind us, I guess, is doing is still all the layout work, right?
Yes. Yep. Prepping for setting of the walls.
Okay, so pinpointing all of these locations will be very, very important because you got a lot of right angles to deal with. Now, is there any kind of a foundation plan that we could look at just yet?
Sure.
All right, so where are we located right now?
We're right in this corner right here.
Okay, so the grade goes down, and so this line represents this frost wall that we were just talking about.
Yes, that's all below grade.
Okay, and then what are all these little squares?
Those are the lolly column pads that will support the house in the center of the marriage wall.
Okay, they're precast also.
That's correct. They'll
Okay,
be
so-
incorporated in the stone, and then when we pour the floor, it's all married as one.
And it's just sit on,
These will be set flush with the stone. They'll be dug out in the center.
I see, so you have to bury them just a little bit and it'll all be flush.
That's correct.
But there's no concrete at this level that's poured. It's all
It's all precast.
formed,
Yes.
precast, great. And then how do you get the tamping accomplished?
Well, once the elevations are determined, they get the perfect level, and then he runs down with a compactor and make sure that the compaction rate is the way it's supposed to be.
So we pass this machine across the area once or twice, and that takes care of it. We'll be back in a moment with a preview of our next show. Stick around. That's all we're getting done today. Come home again next time. We'll be putting together the entire prefabricated concrete foundation system from Superior Walls. Till then, I'm Bob Vila. It's good to have you home again. Looking for help on your next project? Visit bobvila.com for everything you need to get the job done right. You'll find Home Again highlights, interactive tools for planning your next project, and helpful how-to articles for every room in your home. bobvila.com, the ultimate home site.